Welcome to the pre-free agency edition of Dolphins In Depth, a podcast provided to you by the Miami Herald. I'm your host, Miami Herald columnist Omar Kelly, and joining me is Isaiah Biggie Smalls to talk a little bit about free agency. Obviously, we've had some news in the past couple of days, not major news, but some news. The Dolphins have signed Cameron Good, who missed most of last season with a patella tendon injury, and Keon Smith, who missed all of last season with an ACL injury. According to Chris Grier, going back to our many media sessions, teams have actually offered to trade for Keon Smith. He's probably an option for the backup tackle and maybe an interior guard position, a young offensive lineman the Dolphins like. And then Cameron Good has always established himself as a special team staple. But this show, Isaiah, is about our master list of free agents, creating a master plan for this team, which still needs to create some cap space, Isaiah. Let me break it down for you, okay?
Go ahead.
Let's break it down for you.
Go ahead.
Number one, the first thing that you need to know is that only the 51 top salaries actually count towards the salary cap, okay? That's lesson number one. Lesson number two is that there's annually cap carryover. What you did not use last year comes into you get that as a sign up bonus for this year. Teams have annually carried it over to the point where you see the New England Patriots have $120 million of cap space. They didn't all get it in one season. It's just they've got cap carryover plus what's remaining on their roster. The number three thing that you need to know is that you cannot have a deficit at the beginning of the NFL league year. By March 12th at 4 p.m., you have to be in the black. You cannot be in the red. The Miami Dolphins, I believe they're a little bit in the red based on what Over the Cap is saying because of the two new signees. It's not important. But keep in mind, the Dolphins don't even have 51 players on the roster right now, so everybody that's added is going to count. However, once they begin signing people, everybody who's making less than $1 million, they're going to come off. Every single person comes off. So it's going to be a moving target. But based on the contract restructuring, and I think I went over this with you and Barry, I had my cap guru expert analyze the numbers. The contract restructuring of Teron Armstead, the Dolphins should be roughly about $13 million in cap space. Now, what can you do with $13 million? I would explain it like this. Last offseason, the Dolphins signed Jordan Brooks, Aaron Brewer, Kendall Fuller, Jonnu Smith, and then Robert Jones and Anthony Walker for roughly about $16 million in cap space. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that Jordan Poyer as well, for about $16 million in cap space. Now, guys like Jordan Poyer and Saron Neal, who both signed 1 year, $2 million deals, it's not significant. It's really going to cost you about $800,000 on cap value because the bottom salaries continue to just get deleted once you start adding players. Now, so basically, you can get about 5 starters with about $14 million in cap space. Now, that doesn't necessarily – the first year your cap hit is going to be the smallest portion, and that's based on how much of a signing bonus you signed for. But if you think about all those deals last year, they were not major deals. You know, Jordan Brooks got 3 years for $26 million. Aaron Brewer got – 3 years for $21 million. Kendall Fuller got 2 years for $14.5 million. Jonnu Smith got 2 years for $4.4 million. Dolphins can sign mid-tier players, but if they want to go for a Trey Smith, who's right now on the franchise tag with the Kansas City Chiefs, who coincidentally traded away their top offensive guard in Tooney, depending on how you view, Trey Smith. It's going to be a challenge for the Kansas City Chiefs. You're going to see other teams create more roster purges or trade away more hefty salary players. And the Dolphins might be one of them. Any movements that you got your eye on from a Dolphin standpoint?
I'm all looking about how they restructure, the contracts. Obviously, we talk about Bradley Chubb, right? That's a big domino, and how they're going to do that. And I know we posited this question.
Keep in mind, hold on, put a pin
go
in that, because
Yeah.
If they don't restructure him
Mhm.
and create that cap space, then they could potentially cut him as a June 1st cut. Now, if they do that, they get back $19.5 million in cap space, but you can't use that until June 1st. So it's not going to help you now.
Exactly, and I think that's the issue. That's kind of like the situation that the Cowboys kind of found themselves in when it came to the coaching cycle, right? Like they waited forever to let go of Mike McCarthy, and then now it's like, oh well, now we got to kind of do what we got to do. I don't do that. Like, let me just point that out there. I don't know if we have any Dolphins brass that listen to this, but don't do that for the love of God. Try to work out a deal on the front end, and also, and I know you're not necessarily the biggest fan of this, but if they are as committed to Tua as they have told us they are, they need to rework that money. They have to. I understand that it would be a
Listen,
bigger
it
hit on
ain't
the
their
back end.
problem. It ain't their problem if things go left. It's somebody else's problem.
No, that's
Um,
true.
that I don't disagree with you. I think the contract was structured so that you can get $20 million off it this year to create
Yeah,
cap space. It's what every team does with their quarterbacks. The problem is it makes him a little bit harder to digest cutting him in the future years. However, should this team be sending a message that they care about cutting Tua in the future years, or that they don't believe in Tua? I I'm sure Tua doesn't care, because I don't even think they need Tua to restructure. They could just say, here, Tua, we're giving you a $20 million signing bonus. Your salary is lower to the base salary. They have worked that into the contract. So that's what it's there for. Do they have to pull that trigger now? No. Could they pull that trigger next year? Yes. It's there. Also, the question is, and this is an important question, is there $34 million worth of players out there that you want to give money to?
look, I looked at the free agent class. It's not crazy, right? It's not crazy, but I think you can get some good value put pieces in there and try to just figure out what you got to do. I think there's at least one or two guards on the market. Obviously with Trey Smith, kind of assuming Trey Smith is going to be chief next year. There's a few guys out there that I think that can help sustain that offensive line. Obviously there's some guys on the defensive side that can help bring back that give them some depth in the trenches over there. I know we had talked about five guys trying to figure out. I don't know if we want to get into this now. We want to wait a little bit. But I think that there's some. I mean, there's some good guys that you can get out there that I think could help change the trajectory of the organization. To me, at least.
Okay, well, let's get into it. I'm going to be considerate and generous enough to go
Okay,
first here,
go ahead. Yeah.
unless you would like to go
I mean,
first.
go ahead. No, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
this is the assignment that I gave Isaiah, and I am going to do the same assignment.
Mhm.
Let's just start with, this is 5 players that you absolutely think could help this team get better. I'll start with James Daniel. I've had my eye on him probably since the draft process. He's had a good career with the Steelers, did not play more than 4 games last season. So he goes right on that pile of damaged goods. I do not concern myself with a dented can as long as I know that he's going to help, he's going to heal up, and the contents on the inside is good. I think the Steelers are ready to move on, so they're not going to be an active, aggressive bidder. They've
Mhm.
already got his replacements. That's how good organizations operate. I, however, am not bidding crazy. I think probably the most I'd go is $9 million a year on him. 2-year commitment, $18 million guaranteed. That's probably not
Mhm.
going to seal the deal. Maybe I have to throw in a half of a year's salary in terms of guaranteed numbers. I'm definitely, the one concern that I have is I don't think the guard market is very good. That's why you see teams trading right now for expensive guards, because
Mhm.
what's out there, if I'm trading for a guy making $15 million and I'm going to have to be paying a guy 15 who's an inferior player just because that's
Yeah.
what the market says he's worth, I don't know if you want to do that. But I do believe in James Daniels. I'm going to move on to a defensive lineman that I want. And this is going to be a familiar name to you, Isaiah. Okay? His name is Calais Campbell. Now,
he's on this too.
here's the problem. Here's the problem with Calais Campbell. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
He's older than the coaches that are coaching him. He's more knowledgeable than the coaches that are coaching him. That's a pro and a con. Now, the one thing about these aged veterans are they know how much they're worth. I was shocked to know that Calais Campbell played for $2.75 million last year. What the Dolphins signed him to, in my opinion, was offensive. But if Calais wanted to do it, more power to it. If I were Calais Campbell, considering what they asked me to do last season, would I be comfortable making less than backups? No, I would not. And I would definitely be in demand of at least $5 million. If I'm Calais, though, I'm not making my decisions now. I'm waiting. I'm a 38-year veteran. I don't need training camp. I don't need the offseason program. Unless some organization is like the Miami Dolphins needs me there to be a cultural piece to help lay down the foundation and the culture of the organization, then I'll consider it. But I need about $500,000 in a workout bonus. If I'm Calais Campbell, I'm waiting until after the draft and I'm cherry picking my team.
Of course.
Now that would be that would put the Dolphins in a very difficult, uncomfortable spot from this standpoint. I got nothing without Calais.
Yeah.
But do I want to go with signing a BJ Hill to 10, 11, 12 million dollars, and Melton Williams to 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 million dollars when I know I can get Calais Campbell for $5?
I mean, like Milton Williams looked like a star in that, towards the end of that playoff, that Super Bowl run. So I understand the hesitancy. I personally did not think that the Dolphins could afford them, because you talked about the money he commanding, and then but the cap space. I don't necessarily know. You're gonna have to really rejigger some things. But I'm a fan of the Calais Campbell because of what you just said. Obviously, there's the culture standpoint, right? Like, he is one of the guys that can show these young guys how to be a pro, how to have longevity, how to really just approach the game correctly, right? And so that is something that there's not necessarily a dollar amount on it, but they better figure out the dollar amount to make sure he comes back. And you mentioned something earlier about, oh, well, that puts the Dolphins in a hell of a position. You know how they would have avoided this? They would have won last year. If they would have won, giving him a reason to come back, right? Because honestly, if I'm Calais Campbell, obviously the weather down here, you know what I'm saying, is great. You've had I think he's had a home here for a while because of the connection. Like, he genuinely has love for South Florida, and there's few better places to play, honestly, when you think about it. However, I think he has to really, really ask the question: does he think that the Dolphins could build the Super Bowl contender in 2025? And if he thinks the answer is yes, then we'll see him in a Dolphins uniform. If he thinks the answer is no, I don't think he'll be back. But that being said, I do have him on my list because I think he is that important to this team. Plus, year 2 in the Weaver scheme, you can only get better with it. So I'm gonna have to agree with you on it. And before you say your third, let me jump in with one real quick so we can kind of do a back and forth thing. Okay. You mentioned James Daniels from the Steelers. I'm going Tevin Jenkins from the Bears. He was a top 20 offensive guard. According to Pro Football Focus, he was one of the brighter spots on that offensive line.
Hold on. Yeah. Let me just ask you this question. Mm-hmm. What did the Chicago Bears just do?
They just got rid of. They just replaced. They just got in a bunch of guards, 100%. They
just traded for 2 guards.
Yeah.
So if you out here hot stuff, and I know my interior was not good enough, why am I going to sign Tevin Williams to a ridiculous?
Tevin Jenkins, first of all, and I think if you look at the like I said, he was a top 20 guard according to Pro Football Focus. Now let's back up. One, when new coaches come in, what do new coaches like to do? They like
to bring their own scheme. They like to bring their own
They like to build the team and their image, right? Correct. So that says nothing necessarily about Tevin Jenkins specifically, right? That this could be Ben Johnson, like, hey, look, last year was terrible, right? Regardless of how good this individual was, right? And that's the thing with the offensive line. you have 1 or 2 leaky holes, the whole entire thing looks terrible, right? The whole entire thing looks terrible, right? And so I'm not specifically going to blame last year's ineptitude on Tevin Jenkins, right? I think he's a young guy. I think you can bring him in. He's 27 years old. You can bring him in, get a few years on him, and then see. Obviously, if it doesn't work out this year, you make decisions based on what you have. However, I think, like I said, top 20 guard, much better than what they had, right? Top 20 guard, I believe, in passing and in the run game as well. Much better than what they had last year. Let's give him a chance. Bring him down to South Florida. Let's see what he got. Go ahead.
Okay, that's not I'm not opposed to it.
I feel you.
However, I fundamentally understand why they've been so resistant to pay guards, because it's not an important position until your quarterback has pockets that are compromised and you can't open up running lanes, which is what we saw last year. But you can't go the absolute opposite way, which is not pay guards and then all of a sudden break the bank for guards. That's my opinion. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm very curious. I think they would probably prefer to lean on the draft to address their guard and offensive line needs.
And I just want to point this out. He had a higher, Pro Football Focus rating than Jonah Jackson, one of the guards that they brought in. I'm just going to point that out there.
That's if you believe in Pro Football Focus.
I pick and choose my moments. Yeah. Argument, I believe in it. If it doesn't,
I go to war with Pro Football Focus for many years, since Vince Wilfork was a player. Which means, Vince Wilfork's been eligible for the Hall of Fame for like 2 years. For 2 years, so he's been out for a minute. Which means I've been going to war with them for about a minute. Justin Simmons is my safety. Now,
okay,
everybody will say, Omar, you always love the old players. And they're right. I'm guilty. I am guilty. And in fact, I will honestly admit that I liked the signing of Jordan Poyer until I realized he could not move. Then when I realized he could not move, I was like, ooh, this is going to end bad. I will say this about Justin Simmons. While he is not Pro Bowl elite safety Justin Simmons anymore, he's not washed either. I think the Falcons situation last year showed that he could still play. It's not at a ridiculously high level, but I wouldn't mind investing a $4 million salary into Justin Simmons and seeing where it takes me. I would feel uncomfortable if I'm going with 2 young safeties on the field at the same time. A young person has to lead the room, and I would want it to be a Pro Bowl player. That's my safety upgrade. I'm sure they're going to go with another player just because I think they've learned their lesson from pursuing the aged and advanced players. But I'll be honest with you, safeties, I got a long list of guys that I like, and a lot of them are over 30. And
I think you're looking in the wrong place, because I found a safety that's under 30. Go ahead.
Okay. Who's your safety under 30?
Oh, I was going to say Justin Reed, the former Kansas City Chiefs safety. 28 years old. Again, top 20 safety, according to Pro Football Focus. 2 picks last year. Can create turnovers. Now, whether or not I feel like can the Dolphins afford him? And this is what it ultimately boils down to. I like Justin Fields as well as a player.
Teams don't let good players out the door. I'm just letting you know that. And then when they do let them out the door, tell me the last player that Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Kansas City has let out the door that absolutely just, as a free agent, not traded them away, that just tore it up with the other teams.
You don't have to give me a second. But
okay. No. Yeah, you go wait. You gonna be searching back to when the Dolphins signed.
Wait. No. Last year Calais played in not 2023.
He played in Atlanta, yeah.
Atlanta, okay. He didn't play.
When he left Baltimore, he went to Jacksonville and had some pretty good seasons.
That's what I'm saying. That's
but he caught a bag. He caught a bag.
Also, where Patrick Queen, he left Baltimore, free agency, right?
Where'd he go?
I thought he went to the Steelers, maybe. Hold on.
He might have went to the Steelers, and then Devin.
Yeah, he went to the Steelers. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, okay.
So I understand your point. Good teams don't let good players walk away. However, if they realize, look, if they can't afford them, they want to go younger, they want to do all these things, That's like there's I understand what you're saying.
There's variable factors. Yeah.
There's variables for it, right? And I think, and look, this is a guy with championship pedigree, just won back-to-back Super Bowls before getting they butt whooped this past year. But I think the Dolphins need some sort of championship pedigree, right? They need I want guys that have gone to the mountaintop, have looked over, have basked in the glory. And because when that happens, right, you bring those guys into your organization, it changes, right? I just listened to Howie Roseman talk about winning the Super Bowl this past year, right? He said the first one, like before winning the Super Bowl, it was just like, okay, I'm satisfied with the NFC East Championship. I'm satisfied with winning the division. I'm satisfied with even winning the conference, right? But after you taste that Super Bowl nectar, you become addicted to it, right? And so I say that to say, like, the Dolphins right now, right, with all this conversation about, they haven't won a playoff in blah, blah, blah year, that is the bar. They want to win a playoff game. And to me, if you're shooting that low, there's an issue with your organization, right? I'm not saying there's an issue with the Dolphins. I'm just saying I don't have time for lackluster.
You ain't gotta lie, Craig. You ain't gotta lie.
I don't have time for lackluster expectations. If you're not shooting for the stars, then why are you playing this game? This game is played for trophies and hardware and all this stuff.
Money.
Yes, it's played for money. Of course it's played for money. Of course it is, right? I'm not ignorant. I'm not ignorant to that fact. However, what makes the money, what makes everything all sweeter, what gets people gold jackets is the rings, is the hardware, the MVPs, all that fun stuff, right?
You know what I found interesting looking up some Eagles stuff today, because I've just been curious about how they're built and some of their salary structures. Josh Sweat took a like $6 million pay cut to be with the Eagles last year, and I'm like, where do they do that at? Like, how do you convince a player to take? I mean, and he's not a bad player, but he just decided that now obviously he's gonna probably reap the rewards now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from that point. But convincing a player to take a $6 million salary reduction just to be part of a title contending team, that looks like a luxury to me. I think that back in the days when the Patriots were convincing veterans to take less to come be part of a title run, I think that only works for select teams. If you're the Miami Dolphins, you can't say, yeah, come on over here and let me get that. Take 70% less money. I'm gonna ask you to take a 60% pay cut because we're gonna make a title run.
But why is that though? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that the Dolphins can't? Because I feel like the Dolphins should be able to do that because of all the other things. Like, who doesn't want to live in Miami, right?
That's true, but that's why you get the majority of the guys you get.
You said, go ahead, what?
That's why you get the majority of the guys that you get, especially the aged veterans who want to come down here and play on the grass, want to play for a good organization. They want to play for a coach that's not going to kill them. They want Florida's taxes. Yeah, maybe that's part of the problem as well, where guys are coming down here to retire, or coming down here to set up their retirement. And I've seen it for over a decade. To me, I don't know if that's a problem or more of an attraction. Like, to me, the biggest problem that the Dolphins have is they don't have enough dogs. They don't have enough killers. And if you don't have enough dogs, you don't have enough killers. When it comes kill time, you can't pull the trigger, or your hand a little shaky. And I don't know if that has anything to do, or maybe you fall apart physically at the end of the season, which has been the case for them. But sometimes that happens to younger players. So I don't know if it's culturally, but I'm not taking no pay cut to be part of the Miami Dolphins. I'm sorry. It's just
and that's why this team will struggle, because guys not locked in. You gotta and I get it. I understand.
They're taking pay cuts in Atlanta.
Atlanta not building anything. They're not building anything.
They taking pay cuts in Dallas.
Dallas isn't building anything. You're naming teams that aren't building anything.
Okay, well the people who
people should be taking pay cuts to go play for the Chiefs. They should be taking pay cuts to go pay because the thing is,
yes.
And then when you mentioned it with Josh Sweat, right? He's going to make a bag this year because he got to the mountaintop. He's looked over top of it, and then that's what we call buy-in. When you buy in like that, there are rewards on the back end. It might not. It's not instant gratification. Like if you want the instant gratification, then I guess go to one of those organizations that'll give it to you. Go play for the Panthers. Go play for the, you know what I'm saying? Go play for one of those teams. But like, if you really want to win, I think winning is about winning rings.
Who told you this NFL was about winning rings? Who lied to you? Who told you this lie?
I guess.
Well, did Saquon Barkley just take a pay cut, or did he get a raise?
But if you think about what Saquon did, right? Like there wasn't last year. Like we had this big conversation about why isn't the running back value? Why isn't the, you know what I'm saying? It's a position that doesn't necessarily have the value. But then if you look at what Saquon did, right? Then you look at the draft too. There are a bunch of guys that I think can go into a team and not have a Saquon effect, but just show that look, this running back position is far from dead. You can still be elite with it. Like, I mean, look at even the Ravens too, like with having that dual threat, that is a team that to me, and I'm exception to the rule, and I'm a big believer in the back. I'm a big believer in the running game. I'm a big believer in Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and changing the identity of your team. But exceptions to the rule. You know what NFL teams treat running backs like? They're like their tires. They need 4 of them. You can't just put all your money in one tire. You need 4 of them, and it's not the engine that makes the car go. But props to them. Speaking of engines that make the car go, I told you about my safety, Justin Simmons. But now let me tell you about my quarterback. Okay.
This is no secret to anybody who's followed me for years. I have wanted Joshua Dobbs on the Miami Dolphins since he is in the draft. He's been in the league for 8 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Knows this offense because he played for the 49ers last year, has playing experience, intelligent player, was a rocket scientist in college, very smart, intelligent player. I like players who I think are going to be future coaches. Joshua Dobbs has that written all over him. Add him to this team. And last year, I believe he made $3.25 million on a 1-year deal, and all of it was guaranteed. I'm personally not paying a quarterback more than $4 million. You get the Mike White special. 2 years, $8 million. Only one of it is guaranteed. You are on the Mike White special. And if you don't want to take the Mike White special, that's fine, because I always got Teddy Bridgewater in the backyard. I got hired Teddy Bridgewater, and he could be my backup quarterback. If something happens to I believe I can put him in the game and get me some wins. But Joshua Dobbs is a young quarterback that I would love to have backing up to it. Do you got a quarterback on your list?
I do not, but I can just throw one out there. I wanted to go back to something you mentioned earlier, right? Because I think you said that this team lacks dogs. It lacks, we've had this conversation before, right? And I think the player that I have up next can address that. Dre Greenlaw. Granted, we know the injury history, but when he is healthy, he is phenomenal. You can look. I feel like he would bring that sort of.
Is he phenomenal, or is Fred Warner phenomenal and he's eating off Fred Warner's plate?
Fred Warner is another level. We're not. I don't even look.
I'm just asking a question. I'm just asking a question.
I think you're right. I think when you play next to stars, it makes everyone else look better. It's kind of like the pretty girl effect, right? If you have a pretty girl, right, and then that's the opposite of that.
Yeah, because my wife usually keeps
up, guys. Yeah, my fault. All right, but what I'm saying is. As a result,
pretty girls don't hang together. Pretty girls usually like to hang out with ugly girls because it makes them look prettier. See, that's where. There you go.
But I say that to say that this to me is one of those pretty girl friendships. It's rare. It's what I'm saying. It looks good on the field, and I think if you break it up, each player is gonna have moderate success. Especially, Jordan Brooks. To me, he overplayed his contract last year. To me, at least.
Yeah,
and so I think.
Since you mentioned Jordan Brooks, I don't even know how this escaped my mind. I don't even know how I didn't see this, because I usually like to comb through contracts and go through the salaries. Mm-hmm. But Jordan Brooks is an easy way to create about $5.6 million in cap space from the Miami Dolphins, because they could easily turn his base salary into a roster bonus. And he's got $7.8 million in base salary. They can give him a $6 million roster bonus, and that creates $5.7 million in cap space. You don't even have to touch the contract. All you're doing is saying, Jordan, hey, we need you to come into the building. Here's a $6 million check. We've moved your contract to a base salary. enjoy your money. And if I'm Jordan Brooks, I'm like, thanks, see you later. Like, I'm going on vacation. That's a $5.7 million in cap space. Why that hasn't been, and I don't see many opportunities because as I've informed you, you're not getting that money out of Zach Sealer. You're probably not getting that money out of Austin Jackson. You know, both of those guys, performance-wise, are probably going to be looking for a raise because they're underpaid for what they do in their position. Jordan Brooks, he's still got 1 year tied into it. Next year is probably the year he's going to come back to the table and say, give me more money. But he's a great and easy way to create about $5.7 million in cap space. But I hear your point. He exceeded the contract. He exceeded expectations. And those are the guys you should try to reward.
No, I agree. So
let me ask you this question about Drake Greenlaw.
Mm-hmm.
We knocked Chris Grier for often signing injured players.
That's fair.
Here we go. James Daniel, Drake Greenlaw. You know, we continue?
You said James Daniel. I didn't say that.
I'm just saying. I'm being honest. I said one. You said one.
Yeah.
If we
look,
sign injured players.
Look, and I think this is why you bring back he's not on my list, but it's also why you bring back either one of probably Anthony Walker Jr. Like, you bring him back too. Granted, he's had some injuries as well, but I think if you kind of not necessarily stagger them, but you know, have one guy obviously is the main guy, and God forbid he gets hurt, you have somebody that is a quality, someone that knows the system and can step right in and perform, right? And I think that's what you bank on, right? I think. Look. If you want to sign the guys that have been healthy the entire time, you know what I'm saying, playing the NFL, that's going to be a very, very short list, right? It's like this is a game of attrition. Guys get banged up all the time, and I think, you know, the difficult job that Chris Grier have is trying to balance the injury history with the opportunity, right? And I think obviously last year the injury history kind of won out a little bit, right? And so I think this year you kind of be smarter, right? You try to find. You wouldn't, to me, being quote unquote smarter is finding guys that don't have the same, not signing guys that have that each individual, not signing guys who individually have their own injury history, right? An extensive list, like trying to maybe take a chance on one or two guys, right? Like if granted, it might not be.
Kendall Fuller was probably one of the most durable guys in the league up until last year.
And then that's my point. Like it's the NFL. You never truly know what's going to happen. Right? Like you can have, again, I just take it back to August when we looked at that roster. On paper, aside from the issues in the trenches, right? Aside from the issues in the trenches, at the very least, you look at that secondary. You thought that secondary is going to come with at least 5 picks. I'm sure you did. With at least 5 picks. And how many they have? They had they definitely had 3. Because I know 4. Cater had 2. Did Jalen
had 1.
Had 1. So that's 3.
That's about it. Yeah. So let me give you my final player. I know you still got more guys on your list, but this is my final player. And this is like when you go to a concert and you know the music, but you know the performer. The music is not fresh, it's not new, but you know the performer, and you know he puts on one hell of a show. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. My guy at wide receiver would be Mac Hollins. Okay. And let me explain to you why.
Okay.
I've always admired Mac Hollins for a multitude of reasons. But most importantly, he's a hustler. He's a dog. You're not going to outwork him. And he's going to bark and he's going to bite. Now, he's not a frontline NFL receiver. He's not going to produce 1,000 yards. But I guarantee you he's going to be one hell of a gunner. And he's going to block the crap out of whoever he's blocking. He's played here before with Tua, so he's familiar with Tua and his work. Mac Hollins is just one of those fundamental pieces that I would never want to leave my organization. And ever since he's left, I've had major regret and always followed him with a lusting eye because I want Mac Hollins' intensity on my team.
Yeah. I mean, look, okay. All right, look, I like it. Mine was, again, I was going to dip into the championship pedigree a little bit. And I chose this one just because I just feel like it's kind of a Dolphins signing. Older guy, on the last, has about one more year left in his career.
Oh, the retirement program? Go ahead.
Yeah, I ain't going to lie. I said Darius Slay, honestly. You know,
Big play Slay. I love big play Slay.
Big play Slay. You know, he was okay last year. In Philly, again, championship pedigree, has two of them things. Can come down here and really,
he plays with a savvy, seasoned veteran. Like, he reads your route. I'm a big fan of big play Slay. The only concern I have is he's 34.
I agree. I think he's one of those players that I think you manage their reps, right? I mean, Miami's good at that. You try to manage the reps. You try to figure out the best way to keep him healthy. Because, he just did it, right? Like, he missed – I think he might have missed a little bit of a game this year, or a game or two this year. But, that's, considering the Super Bowl run, that's incredible, So, look, he's older. You got to see where he is mentally. But he's one of the smartest corners in football. You're talking about a guy that really knows the entire route tree like the back of his hand. That's one of those guys. And
I heard him yesterday, and I don't know if I retweeted it out, but he was breaking down 3 rookie receivers.
Yes. I saw the same clip. Yep.
And just the insight that he provided you on those 3 receivers, that kind of stuff is invaluable in the receiving room. In the defensive back room. I know Jalen Ramsey is bringing that as well, but two
of those guys with those minds. I think,
And I will say this, and I have not talked to him, even though the world knows I talked to him. I have not talked to him, have not reached out to him. Don't know where his thought process is. He sat his year out with his NFL timeout for some bad behavior. In Xavier Howard, would not accept a practice squad contract with teams, and it is what it is. Everybody has their own priorities. I personally think that Xavier could come back here and be a starter on the Kendall Fuller's level. Now, he has not. I need to see Xavier training. That's what I need to see with my own eyes. And when I see Xavier training with the people that he trains with, then I'll be like, then I'm gonna hit up my dog and be like, you still trying to play? But if you look at the Dolphins,
going for Chris Grier's job or something, like, you the guy that's gonna make that call.
Listen, everybody knows Xavier can play. It's just,
off the field stuff. Yeah.
Don't give my dog that rep.
I'm just saying. You said bad behavior. Yeah. What else is that? There is the singular off the field issue. Let me be correct. I don't want to say stuff.
Yeah, a couple.
So now stuff is looking more accurate. Okay, cool. Come on, let's call it. Let's be direct. Let's not beat around the bush.
We got the same problem. We quoting 2 Chainz. If you get it, you get it. That's not for everybody, but if you get it,
time out. Flag on the play.
Hey, man,
that's crazy.
When you know your vice, you realize this is better.
You realize that the Miami Herald pays us, right?
I ain't say it. I didn't say it.
Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen,
we will be back Friday for Dolphins in Depth, where Barry Jackson is going to be joining us to get Barry's musing on what the Miami Dolphins should do next week when free agency begins, the legal tampering period or negotiating period on Tuesday. On that note, Dolphins in Depth, we are out.